¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday morning. Sorry about that, folks. We had a small technical difficulties, but that's okay. First and foremost, I want to thank the person who subscribed, I guess, signed up, if you will, to the HelloFresh sponsor using the code 20354. POG SE. Gotta forget that. 2534. And just make sure we got everything going here. So I think we should start off by kind of piggybacking off yesterday's story about Dave Rubin. Sorry about that, folks. I'm still experiencing a little bit of allergies. Okay.
Do you remember all of a couple of days ago when Dave Rubin came out and announced that
the birds and the bees have been busy.
The birds and the bees have been busy. And he and his husband both, I guess that they had their sperm was fertilized eggs that were then implanted in two different surrogate women.
Yes.
Correct? And they both wanted to have their own sperm. And I'm not,
the eggs are both from the same donor as well.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Eggs are from the same donor. They had their own.
Hold on, folks. I just need to grab a quick tissue. BRB. Sorry about that, folks. Allergies are really hitting hard today and yesterday.
Sperm they wanted, and I don't know if they were just like gambling and seeing like, how many kids can we get out of this, but they got two coming.
No, it's better. It's better than Dara.
And a long time ago I had said, like, at one point Glenn Beck's fans are going to realize that Dave Rubin's actually married to a man, and that's going to be a problem. I never anticipated and that Rubin and his husband would have 2 kids almost at the same time. And I got to tell you,
It's a lot for Glenn Beck's audience to handle.
I'm just saying, generally, I would not recommend that to anybody who wants to do a YouTube show. And certainly not if my husband or my wife was the producer and we're going to get 2 kids in one day. Like, forget about it. We're done. But that's not what this is about.
No.
This is about Dave Rubin's fans.
Hey, Astro,
finding
how's it
out
going?
and losing their shite. And so immediately, huddle. What are we going to do? Glenn, I think you could have Dave on there and model for
Clear the
people.
air.
Model for people how they can not watch him anymore because we have a contract.
Hey, stop clicking around because I need to show you this
Oi.
right now. Now I've got this 8-pound solar power.
With him.
Quit it.
Here it is.
I get why the right has these, what I would argue are often legitimate fears, because the left does not stop eating civilization.
Correct.
And think about what an unfortunate position
Oh
that
my
puts us in.
God.
Because then someone like me can make an announcement like this, then good, decent, thoughtful conservatives, some of faith, maybe some not of faith, whatever it is, could reach out and say, boy, this is what an interesting opportunity, and sure, it's a little different, and whatever, all the love that you and the Blaze guys and everyone else are giving me.
Oh,
And then there's this other part that's legit, which is,
Correct.
if we move the line, they're going to keep going. And I don't know what
Pause
the
it for 1
answer to
second.
that is.
Pause it for 1 second. Wait. They are so flustered by the reaction. He's saying that
Yes, it's the left's fault.
conservatives, have right to, because the left is eating civilization.
right. So they're extra touchy, or they have their defenses up, and so that's why they might be going after Dave.
Yeah, but I'm not the left, so I know how not to move the line too far. So just let me move it just a little bit and tolerate me moving it, please.
I mean,
No.
the idea, and for Glenn Beck's audience, that the line you want to move, like, that is eating. Civilization is their concern. Like Dave is just like deluding himself if he genuinely believes this.
It's motherfather
he's-
fundamentalism.
Oh my God.
Oh
my God.
Is he getting
my
tired
God.
of the
The
grift?
whole point why
I
they're
don't
against
know.
2 men marrying is for this very reason.
I think
They
he's
don't
continuing
want,
it,
and,
right?
I mean,
It's
you
the
got-
content, not the form.
Exactly.
He's acquiescing to it by blaming the left, right? And like, he can keep going and he can keep doing this because, well, he's mostly wealthy enough to be insulated from it. That's the whole point.
Right? Like,
You got Laura Ingraham talking about teachers grooming.
yeah.
The whole in his state. The reason why, if you have kids under the younger than 3rd grade, then you as a teacher cannot mention the fact that you are gay, is because they're afraid that you're going to get indoctrinated while at school. I mean, does Dave Rubin think that these people who watch Glenn Beck don't think that these kids are going to be indoctrinated? Oh my God, are you kidding me?
Exactly. They've set it up to where any two dads that would want to do this are basically grooming their children.
Even one dad who's going to come out and say, I'm gay, but for the sake of you children, so I don't groom you, I no longer deal with my husband anymore.
Yeah, but
Here-
Dave thought he could be one of the good ones. That's what he thought he could position himself as.
That's right. And this is what I got to
Remember
say.
Trump? Remember what Trump said?
Yeah, remember when Trump said he didn't care?
He's like,
Yeah,
Yeah, hey everybody, remember?
That other daughter, I don't remember her name. She did the LGBT whatever rally. Yeah,
I mean,
Tatiana.
I have some sympathy for Dave insofar as I think maybe I'm being a little too charitable, but I think he must be having a moment where he's realizing, like, oh my God,
I've made a horrible mistake.
Yes.
He's either realizing, like, oh my God, I've been absolutely wrong in every assessment I've made in most of my life, or he's thinking, like, damn it, I told you we shouldn't have kids.
Yes, I was right. I was
We're
totally
going to
right.
threaten my income.
He played this so wrong. If he just didn't tell anybody, he would have been fine. But he chose to. He
And then he could be like
likes the
apologetic about it. He could be like, we wanted kids, but I didn't want to like put it forward as a model. He could have been like,
I know it's the wrong thing to do, but we did it anyways. We couldn't help ourselves.
Anyways, the reality is this is what they really think.
Litmus test this past week.
Okay, if you want to see if your favorite conservative icon is one of us.
Remember,
really American,
this is what they
really
consider to
Christian,
be real
just
conservatives.
see what they said about that pedophile couple that are trafficking kids. What's her name again?
Are you talking about Dave Rubin?
Oh, Dave Rubin. That's it. Yeah, Dave Rubin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming soon, baby one. Where did they steal this kid from? That's two men.
Well,
two men are gay.
Yeah,
they can't have kids.
It's got to pop out first, and then that's when they snatch them.
Oh, that's when they steal
them.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's when they steal it. But that's like plotting a crime right there. So somebody should probably do something
That's what they
about
think
that.
of Dave Rubin.
Sheriff of Pile? Should we call a Sheriff of Pile? Someone needs to
We
deal
should call
with this.
somebody because I have a kidnapping in process. You know, caught
Seriously,
red-handed.
look, what is he crying for? Is he crying because he got away with it almost? Look at this. These two men who cannot reproduce, the only thing they can reproduce and create is more
This is
debauchery
literally
and AIDS.
the type of
They
people.
can spread AIDS.
Yeah, and then the classic trope at the end, like the '80s classic trope at the end. This is the kind of people that he inevitably, indirectly, or directly, carries water for. That's what they think of him.
Heart wants what it wants.
That's what it wants, and I have gone to pray about it away, and now I don't know what to do. Maybe we'll put up the kids for adoption.
I wonder if we get any right-wing gay people that can be like, he should. We support gay marriage, but having kids is just one stone.
Oh, I'm ready for it. Here, play this. Keep going.
I honestly don't, because that has nothing to do with me and how I'm going to live my life.
Go back. I want to just pick it up a little bit.
Interesting opportunity, and sure, it's a little different, and whatever, all the love that you and the Blaze guys and everyone else are giving me. And then there's this
Sucking up
other
to
part that's legit,
the Blaze here.
which is, if we move the line, they're going to keep going. And I don't know what the answer to that is.
Dave.
I honestly don't, because that has nothing to do with me and how I'm going to live my life.
That's
I
literally
think, and this is
a
why I wanted
slippery
to have
slope.
you on, because I don't have an answer. I am, you know me, I'm a deeply religious man, and my religion says man and a
And my religion says people like you shouldn't exist.
woman,
into combat.
that is the basic building block of family. We're probably the clearest church on this because it's been in our doctrine for
Wait, can you pause it?
200
I'm
years.
sorry. Can you go back? You said man is the basic building block of family. I apologize. I just want to make sure I heard that right.
I think he said man and woman.
Okay, just let's see.
Also, did he join the French Foreign Legion? Or I don't understand what he's wearing there. He's got an American flag. So he's
Hold
wearing
on,
an
sir.
American Foreign Legion?
Yeah, it looks like a yellow sort of sweater.
Sorry about that, folks.
And a green polo. And then
And
it
then
also looks
he's
like
going to war.
it also looks like it was his dad's uniform, because he ain't fitting in it much.
No, that's why he can't button it closed. But he does have the Glenn Greenwald style of weird colored sweater and then weird colored undershirt.
And that's why I wanted you on, Dave, because we're afraid this is going to burn down our entire enterprise here. And I have to toe the line to make it look like I am not in any way condoning this.
I need to get some jabs in here somehow.
And I love the fact that Rubin actually thinks he can get away with saying with these people, like, I'm going to hold the line. Dude, you got married to a guy, and then you took the next step, which was you're going to have kids. Like, I don't know where you push the line from there.
No, well, they can justify his marrying a guy being like, it's a personal choice, right? Like, but then when it comes into indoctrinating those precious children
Well,
into
there's
your
going to be,
lifestyle,
at the very least, yeah.
We are Nashville men.
Cringe.
apply.
There's going to be two kids who, at the very least, are going to buy into this idea that two men can be parents. And that's
Spaces, thank you for the
All
follow.
right, sorry for pausing it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, and to be frank, like, they don't care. Okay, he was useful up until a certain point.
Man and a woman.
Precious children
Well,
into
there's
your
going to be,
lifestyle.
at the very least, yeah.
Don't multiply.
Also, just to piggyback off that, because I had a thought and it kind of escaped me for a second, but I got it back on track. So, and these folks often portray themselves as libertarian, but in reality, like Ben Shapiro likes to present himself as some type of libertarian, but he's not. He is an authoritarian. He is a theocrat, and his ideal society would be his religion. His religious kind of fundamentalism is the rule of law. That's what he wants, and that's what the type of people like Glenn Beck want and conservatives want. That's what they are. They're not libertarians in any way, shape, or form. By any stretch of the imagination. They are authoritarian theocrats.
There's going to be two kids who, at the very least, are going to buy into this idea that two men can be parents, and that's.
Hey, Alio, how's it going?
Man and a woman. That is the basic building block of family. We're probably the clearest church on this because it's been in our doctrine for 200 years. So we're very clear on that. But that's marriage and relationships, and that's what I believe. But I also know God created you just like He created me, flaws and all.
Okay, so if that's true, then what's the deal? If that's true, then what's the deal? Leave him alone.
I believe I have a gene, they've never found it, that makes me very susceptible to alcoholism because it runs in my family. So it's craziness, but it runs in my family. The same thing with things that I don't
We can tell.
Understand. And if we can't have a conversation about things that we don't necessarily understand and probably won't until we get to the other side, we have to just work it out together and be able to say, Dave, I disagree, or I don't know what the answer is, but I love you.
Then just leave him alone.
This is unbelievable. First off, yes, Matt made the point that Beck has compared either Rubin's being gay or Rubin's desire to be in love and be gay, or desire to, frankly, be loving with kids and have kids, as to be functionally as problematic as being an alcoholic. Like, you can't help it, Dave, that you've been afflicted with this. It's an affliction, Jim. One that is really dangerous. And actually, Beck is an alcoholic. They say in the program, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. But he's abstaining, so why can't Dave? Why can't Dave abstain from this?
Do the Milo model. And it would be much better for Beck's business model if he did the Milo model.
Without a doubt. But it's also Beck's people also, I think, because I'm
actually wondering if they actually covered this, because the reason why I brought this up is because to kind of give the closing on this story. So I wonder if they'll go over it.
And see this from everybody's perspective. Beck's people, like, the idea that he doesn't know, well, if it's doctrine of the church, dude, it's evil. It's pure evil. And now, I'm just giving the perspective of Beck's fans.
Many commenters.
And how do I know this is the perspective? Because I've read it. They've said it. They've said it over and over and over again. And am I overjoyed at this? Yeah, I am. But more importantly, I think it's fascinating. I think this is one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen.
Yes.
Because I don't think that we have a model for this. I mean, I said this the other day. Jim Baker having affairs and this and that, and that the pastor from Colorado turned out to be, hiring gay prostitutes. He resigned. He had to step down, but it was, there was also like a lot of poppers involved in this. I gotta say, Dave Rubin is the most
what, he's monogamous, it seems.
He's monogamous, it seems. I'm assuming he's got no, as far as I can tell, no drug problems or anything like this. He's just like an average dude who got super, super, super lucky and made a living, despite the fact of his.
Yeah, but for different reasons, right? Like the right doesn't really like him. They just use him as like a token, but because he's gay, and the left doesn't like him because he has bad ideas. He's like an empty void. Not because he's gay, right? So the reason why we criticize Dave Rubin is because he has bad ideas, or clearly, maybe I should restate that. Maybe he has no ideas, but with whatever, ideas need to be presented for the right. That's literally it. That's why we criticize him.
Limitations on the topics in which he talks about.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like the model guy that the Republicans could accept, it's him, right? Like he's wealthy, he's clean cut, he's, polite, he's, a liberal apostate. He's completely deferential to their bigotry, and it's still not going to be enough.
Never.
And it's going to be fascinating to see how much it actually, Beck is right now just thinking like, okay, I need to wall myself off from Dave in some way. I need to inoculate myself from this fallout. If we have to eat Dave's contract for a couple of years, we do that. Whatever. There's an escape route here.
And here's why he's like an alcoholic, as opposed to just, I don't know, it's like a genetic thing, like blue eyes.
I can still love
Make it
you.
an affliction.
I can love you, Dave, even though you have a horrible illness called gayness, and
that's why I'm benevolent, to continue to employ you.
Exactly. But if it starts to chip away at Glenn Beck, because this is a harder thing.
Glenn's got to be defining himself right now too.
It is, and the thing is that this is a harder thing to actually get out of. Like, I mean, they found out that Beck, like, I had a relapse, I got drunk and this and that, and I had an affair, and I forgive me. This is something that Beck is doing in the cold light of day. Are you going to condone this or not? And if you don't condone it, how can you allow him a platform every day to spread this type of? I mean, it is fascinating, and I do have more sympathy for Rubin than I would like a Milo Yiannopoulos in this. I don't have a ton, but I do. It is fascinating.
It's like a tragedy.
It is a tragedy. It really
and I feel like, because this is obviously going to have cause tension in the relationship too, like
between him and his
particularly because he works on the show. Like, it's none of this is.
Yeah, like how do you square that circle? Really? I mean, like, is the money really that good? Do they pay him so well that he can just like continuously just take that amount of bigotry? I'm not quite sure. It's puzzling, to be quite frank. To be quite frank, we went over two interviews with Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin, and both were just incredible at how Shapiro just hates the fact that Rubin is gay. Like, you could tell. In Ben Shapiro's mind, as we went over that, in Ben Shapiro's mind, apparently a simple dinner in his mind, when Dave Rubin invited him to dinner, or to I think it was like an anniversary dinner or something like that, something to that effect, Ben Shapiro thought it was going to be some type of gay orgy. I'm not kidding. We literally saw that yesterday. His words, not mine. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Morning. Howdy. Grifters are weird because you don't know what they actually believe. Is it worse if they do or don't believe their own grifter takes? I don't know. I have no idea. It's irrelevant to me, because at the end of the day, the message being pushed out is the same, right? It's just worse if they do. Stupidity versus malice. Yeah. The thing is, like, it doesn't matter to me, quite frankly. It doesn't matter, because, like, even if you had no clue what you're doing and you're still perpetuating the same outcomes, as opposed to you actually do know what you're doing and you're still perpetuating the same outcomes. I can't read Dave Rubin's mind. I actually don't know if he believes this or not. It is quite possible that he doesn't. It's quite possible. I mean, this is just my speculation and opinion, is that he just doesn't have any original thoughts. He just kind of spews out whatever needs to be. That's it. He's just an empty vessel. And he's wealthy enough to be inoculated from any of that. I think it's worse if they don't believe their own takes because they know it's wrong. Yeah, I guess, like, in some deep personal way, yeah, that would make it worse. Because deep down, you know what you're doing.
It's avoidable. They have to confront this.
Yeah, but the thing, I mean, and I feel sympathy for
I just can't know what's in his head. So either way, makes no difference to me.
him too. But at the same time, this isn't like a gay conservative who grew up in like a town where like he might not know any. Like this is the why I left the left. This guy consciously cultivated this audience. He wanted to be in concert with these people, and these are the consequences of that choice.
That's right.
So I mean.
But it's also the consequence of him using the fact that he was gay as a club against people. Remember what he used to say? Like, I'm for single payer health insurance. And then he realized like, oh, wait a sec, I can't be both for a smaller government and a single payer health insurance. So he just in that, he's like, how can you say I'm not, a liberal? I'm gay. I'm married to a man. He would say, he deployed that quite a bit as a weapon.
Stop clicking around because I need to show you this right now. And it could
I'm not
save
going to buy your
life next
stupid
time your power
gadget.
goes out.
Okay?
And that weapon, it's like that scene, like in like all the fight scenes in the movie where it's like he takes the knife and he goes forward with it, and then someone grabs it and like, oh no, oh no, oh no. And that's what's happening right now. And I'm here for it.
These are your friends, Dave. These are your buddies. These are the people
I understand why they're upset about this. They're nervous that we're going to push the line too far and actually like love our children.
What would that be?
It would be the next step on the line would be to him to groom them to be non-binary.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
If he does that, I mean, I guess we just have to guess he's been still on the left and it's all been a massive public performance art.
I cannot wait for him to show up on TYT and go, hey guys.
Actually, you were right.
Actually, Jank will tell you I have been under deep cover on assignment for 10 years and found out a lot of things that the stuff that you guys say about the right is true. It is true.
They're a little bit bigoted and it's good to be back.
It's good to be back. Good to be back. Phew. Okay, guys. Oh, I can't believe it. And those suits I had to wear and oh God. Do you remember when I said Stefan Molly knew you guys were moderates? Oh God. Oh boy. Anyways, so great to be back here. And
here's my new book, Why I Write the Right.
Why I Write the Right.
I was right, but I was wrong.
Is that a band name yet? I don't know.
Just
there you
go. God. Oh, and folks, listen. If people are like, "Ugh, you're not going to do this doc about Dave Rubin again,"
we doubled our interest.
This is like a renewal, a resurgence of Dave
Anna
Rubin
would never
content.
have
We
it,
have
I
a
bet.
whole new pot of gold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there ever a TV show everyone's like, this is over, and then it just had its like best years after that?
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that happened with Ozark, and also Breaking Bad. To be honest with you.
Okay, so they didn't go over it. So the conclusion to this story, I guess, to this arc is, well, incidentally, they mentioned Milo Yiannopoulos, so I thought that they were going to actually talk about it, but Milo Yiannopoulos did weigh in into the Dave Rubin situation. He called for their execution. Yeah. I'm not kidding. He actually called for their execution. I thought they had posted it here, but they did not. I thought they had posted it here, but they did not. So it's not such a slippery slope, is it? When we say that the end goal, or I guess the end result of conservatism when it comes to, especially when it comes to folks like Dave Rubin, is they just don't want them to exist. I mean that quite literally. And yet he keeps sucking up to them. Yeah. Yep. Oh, here we are. How many right-wing freaks would be allowed to stand on stage and call for violence before something happens? Yeah, it's stochastic. Here we go. Sorry I took that, took me a while there. Yeah. Y'all thought I was kidding. This is the end result. They should both be Robloxed. Right there. And we don't have to just point to one example. What about this one? Yeah, I don't like Rubin doesn't mean I want to see him harmed. Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, just to be clear, like, we are using this as an example as to illustrate what the end goal is. What the end results are, is what I'm trying to say. And unfortunately, these are some of the folks that Dave Rubin continues, as far as we know, to carry water for. Sodom and Gomorrah. So yeah, that's the kind of neatly tied together arc for this whole thing. Something so innocuous. Something so innocuous as to, just people who are in love, having a family, are being basically... there's calls for their execution. Because, they're gay. Something so innocuous, and again, these folks who claim to talk about freedom and you do you and all this other stuff, sure make up a big storm about something that has absolutely nothing to do with them. And again, none of that is exaggeration, none of that is mischaracterization. We just took their words. If they don't like it, then maybe they shouldn't call for violence. Maybe since the beginning, because those interviews that we watched with Ben Shapiro were years ago. 2016? Oh, actually, I'm sorry. 2016 maybe? 2017? And there was another one that we watched in 2019. These are all just using their own words as to how they feel. How they really feel. This is the end result of religious fundamentalism at its core. Christian nationalism at its core. The GOP chose to have Pence with Trump in 2016 to 2020, but Pence is bad-mouthing Trump now. Well, yeah, because he's bad for he's more damaging to the cause. And at the end of the day, Trump is not really on board with the whole religious thing. And besides, the religious right is the GOP. The fundamentalism, the evangelicals are the right. That's who they are. That's who the GOP is. Christianity and nationalism are two ideologies at odds, but they make it work. Really? Is it really that much? That at odds? From my perspective, it almost seems like they were made for each other. You like authoritarianism, I like authoritarianism. You can't serve both God and Caesar. You can twist yourself into pretzels. By saying That is the will of God. Caesar being Caesar is the will of God, and therefore, I don't know. These folks find a way. These folks find a way. Alright, folks, this one caught my attention, okay? I just couldn't help myself. I need to see what the heck is going on here.
But I listened to him constantly using the N-word. That's the N-word. And he's constantly using it.
Donald Trump had an absolutely bonkers interview on Fox Business with host Stuart Varney. Now, initially, I was going to do a video on just the last clip here, the final clip, the third clip. But then I watched the whole interview, and I had to include 2 more. I mean, it could have gone crazy with like 6 clips, but we have 3 clips here. This is just absolutely insane. So I'm going to start here with the first clip where Trump is talking about the N-word.
If we didn't have it, we couldn't talk. But I listened to him constantly using the N-word. That's the N-word. And he's constantly using it, the nuclear word. And we never talk. We say, oh, he's a nuclear power.
Oh, my God. What is going on? The N-word. We all know the N-word. Nuclear. But you never use the hard R. It's nuclear. Nuclear power. What is happening? And even apart from this insanity about the N-word, we're afraid of saying nuclear power. But you just said it. He's like, Putin's always talking about nukes, but we're afraid to say it. We say he's a nuclear power.
I think you're reading too much into this, David.
That was the
I literally think you're reading too much into it.
word that we're afraid to say. But you acknowledge that we are saying it. I don't even, if you listen to the full context, I could have given you an extra 2 minutes there. You would still not know what point he is trying to make. He just rambles on during this entire interview. Stuart Varney constantly is trying to interject and, change the topic because Trump is making absolutely no sense.
I need to see.
And because they're stupid. And they shouldn't be in power anyway. But they're destroying our country. And they may ultimately be responsible for destroying the world.
What are you going to do if there is a nuke deal with Iran, as looks likely? What will you do?
Oh my God. He is trying to hold back a laugh because that answer was so completely nuts. Political strategy to win an election.
If we go into 2022, the elections, and 2024, and you're still looking back to the election of 2020 and saying that you really won, I don't think that's very good for you or the Republican Party. You want to comment on that?
Well, I actually think it is good for me. And I think if we don't put out all of the crooked things, and we know what they are, that you won't win in 22 and you won't win in 24, if we don't get to it. So I think it's the opposite, actually. And I talk nothing about, nobody talks more about the future
you
than
think
I do.
That
but
2022, you think that 2022 and 2024 are all about the 2020 election? Really?
No. I think for us to win the election, we have to know how they cheated.
What? This is bananas. So, no. There's been no evidence to suggest that there was a massive conspiracy to cheat the entirety of the election. There has been no quantifiable, in other words, there's not enough evidence to suggest that there was a massive voter fraud, election fraud, whatever you want to call it, to overturn the election. That would require an unfathomable amount of coordination. Yeah.
Because otherwise they'll cheat again. And we do know how they cheated.
Stuart Varney here, stunned by Trump's narcissism. He wants to...
Some good memes. All right. COVID and arrogant. Yeah. So somebody said there was a hearing going on. The Supreme Court Justice hearing. We can tune in to see what's going on. Just kind of take a peek.
That I am ruling in every case consistent with the methodology that I've described, that I'm impartial. I don't think that anyone can look at my record and say that it is pointing in one direction or another, that it is supporting one viewpoint or another. I am doing the work and have done the work for the past 10 years that judges do to rule impartially and to stay within the boundaries of our proper judicial role.
Let's go to immigration. Congress gave the Attorney General, quote unquote, sole and unreviewable discretion to decide whether expedited removal would apply to, quote, an alien who has not been paroled or admitted to the United States. You decided a case called Make the Road, New York, where you seem to agree that Congress
No, that would be a
gave the
Republican
Department of
nominee.
Homeland Security sole and unreviewable discretion to decide which illegal immigrants would be subject to expedited removal. But you still went on to review the department's decision. In fact, you issued a nationwide injunction blocking Department of Homeland Security from removing illegal immigrants who had been in the country for less than 2 years.
Really?
In that hearing, you told us that if the text was clear, that ended the question. The law specifically says that Homeland Security, not the courts, was responsible for making the decision. Could you please explain why you believed a federal court could review something Congress called unreviewable?
Thank you, Senator, for allowing me to address that opinion and my analysis with respect to it. As you said, Make the Road was a case involving a challenge to expedited removal, which was a way in which Congress had given the authority to to the Department of Homeland Security to make a decision about how to deport people who are non-citizens. Prior to the challenge that I heard, the Department of Homeland Security, since it received that authority several decades ago, had decided that people who are in this country for up to 14 days and are found within 100 miles of the border are subject to expedited removal. The challenge that I heard involved the department's sudden shift to a determination that expedited removal would be applied to anyone who was found anywhere in the country and who had been here up to 2 years. Importantly, the challenge was not about the actual determination. The challenge was about the procedures that the agency undertook to make that determination. And so the statute said, as you rightly pointed out, that the agency had sole and unreviewable discretion to decide. And in interpreting that, I took into account the language of that statute and the language of another statute that Congress
Skyrim
has
has
enacted
damaged me.
to direct
Jesus.
agencies with respect to the manner in which they exercise their discretion. So I said, and I believed, that sole meant that the Department of Homeland Security was the only agency who got to make this determination as to how many months a person should be in the United States. And unreviewable meant it was final. Once the agency decided, then there was no ability to review substantively their determination. And I should say that, importantly, the statute that Congress enacted gave the agency the discretion to make this determination between 0 and 24 months. There is a limit in the statute. It says Department of Homeland Security, you get to decide where between 0 and 24 months a person who's been in this country can be subject to expedited removal. So I read the statute. DHS gets the sole ability to make that decision. DHS makes that decision and it's final. What wasn't clear to me based on that language was whether Congress intended to preclude its procedural requirements for the exercise of agency discretion. And in the DC Circuit, there was...
Furthermore, isn't Chuck Grassley in Congress? He's a senator, isn't he not? How does he not know this? Or the other option is he does know this and is just trying to drum up something that's really nothing.
It undertakes to exercise discretion. It has to do certain things in order to make the determination that Congress has given it. I looked at those statutes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I looked at those statutes and I considered...
This is awesome. We need more women teaching Republicans how the law works like it's kindergarten. Oh, I think they're very well aware. Because either, one of two things. Either they are absolutely aware and they're just doing this, to put on a show because this is what they have to do. Or B, they're just this incompetent, which then begs the question, why are you there again? If you're this inept, if you're this incapable of understanding the statutes that allegedly you voted for, or at least had to have taken a stance on? Pick one.
And it made sense to require the agency to use its expertise. If Congress wanted the agency to act arbitrarily in picking a number, Congress could have done that. Congress said you can do it up to 24 months. It could have randomly picked a number. But it was giving it to the agency, I thought, and reasoned, precisely because it wanted the agency to use its expertise, to do its research, and to figure out what amount of time is sufficient. And so it was important, I thought, to lay that out in the statute, and I determined that both of those statutory directives of Congress should apply.
Thank you, Senator Grassley. Senator Leahy.
Thank you, Chair Durbin. Judge, congratulations again on your nomination to our nation's highest court. You're an impressive jurist. I hope the broader public sees that, and I've enjoyed the opportunity to meet your family here yesterday. And but I thought before I begin my questions, I was going to respond to something the junior senator from Texas said yesterday.
Yeah, it is
He
grandstanding.
suggested the Democrats exacted a political agenda by opposing the nomination of then Judge Gorsuch to the Supreme Court. I kind of chuckle at that because, along with others, I and others repeatedly and clearly stated substantive concerns with Justice Gorsuch's nomination. I explained my votes on the record. There's no political agenda. I contrast that with Republicans' treatment of then Judge Merrick Garland. We're still waiting today for Republicans to explain on the record what kind of substantive concerns they had with Merrick Garland, that they blocked him for over a year and would not even allow a vote on his nomination, apparently because of a politically driven agenda. All I'm saying is let's make history this week, but let's not rewrite it. This is a historical time. Judge Jackson,
What?
one of the topics we discussed in our meeting was our respective experiences. You as a former federal public defender, myself as a prosecutor. As a federal public defender here in Washington.
I mean, I do like that, that she was a federal public defender, so that's a plus.
One of the valuable lessons I learned as a prosecutor was this. For our criminal justice system to function properly, you have to have skilled, dedicated lawyers on both sides of the issue, both the prosecutor and the defense attorney. It's equally essential for judges to have a nuanced and a balanced understanding of our criminal justice system if we're going to have justice done. Now, it's really concerning, it's confusing that some view your background as a federal public defender as some kind of a liability. Those of us who have spent time in courtrooms know you have to have both the skilled prosecutor and a skilled defender. I believe it.
Why would that be a liability?
Liability. I think it's going to be a major asset to you, and I think it should be welcome on the Supreme Court. In fact, if you're confirmed to the court, as I look back over, you're going to be the first former federal public defender on the court.
That would be interesting.
You're the first nominee since Justice Thurgood Marshall with a significant background in criminal defense. That's pretty impressive. So, all of us should want that represented in the Supreme Court, because decisions on the Supreme Court can have a lasting impact on our criminal justice system.
Hey, Memo, how's it going?
I believe that your experience as a federal public defender has made you a better judge, helped you maintain impartial and balanced perspective in criminal and other cases. And I assume you would agree with that.
Yes, Senator. I
Wait,
think
what was
that
the question?
experience in the criminal justice system, whether, as you say, on the prosecution side or the
What?
defense side, having
Well, okay. I mean, like, I think that his only point was that, her being a public defender or a ex-federal public defender is a good thing, which I agree. The Supreme Court decides what is wrong and the Supreme Court decides what is right and wrong and should be our moral compass. Lawyers have just beaten out of them in law and can only tell you what is legal or not illegal, not what is constitutional. Yeah, but I think that, well, they ideally are interpreters should a challenge come to them, right? That's their job. Their job is to be interpreters should a challenge come to them at all. Many of them have not been lawyers at all. Correct. Right, they're not lawmakers. Correct. I mean, I think that being the U.S. Title Code and Constitution are not the same true. And furthermore, I think that a former public defender would be better. Would be a welcome perspective. Yeah, I suppose.
Here is the problem. This is what you've done. Here is the damage to our society. And I don't know that I would have done that if I had not been a criminal defense lawyer.
Well, and that's sort of what, I was getting to the fact that you have that experience. It's obvious you don't get, as a public defender, you don't get the right to, you don't get to choose your clients. It's not like you're going out there picking and choosing. You're told you're going to defend this person, but they're given that right under the Sixth Amendment.
Well, by nature of it being amended, wouldn't that then become a quote right under the Constitution, because it is written in those amendments? That's the whole point of being able to amend the Constitution, which, of course, it is a hundreds and hundreds of years old document. By design, it's going to have massive problems because it was made in an era, in an entirely different world. That's the whole point of being able to, quote, amend it. Yeah, only if it is passed, true. Right, but so can anything else. Because you can pass an amendment to whatever's enshrined in the original document. That's the whole point. So, like, you could actually amend things that are already in it. Right, only if amendments are passed, correct. It is very difficult because once it happens, then it's done. But currently, women's rights can be taken just by passing a law. What are you referencing? Like, for example, would you be? Are you referencing like abortion? Because that would be an example. Is that what you're referring to? You can't expect lawmakers and authority figures to remember civics. No, but I expect them to have some level of competence in the laws that they advocate for, or in the laws that they advocate for, or in the decisions that they make. I would expect them to be competent, and I would expect them, ideally, of course, I'm speaking in an ideal perspective, they would have the best interests of Americans, or of their constituents. They're saying any regressive state can constitutionally pass a law keeping women from voting. Any regressive state can constitutionally pass a law. So they can what? You mean like the actual state itself? So let's say, I don't know, Florida decides that women just aren't going to vote anymore. They can't just pass a law doing that, right? On January 15th, Virginia became the latest state to ratify the Equal Rights Amendment, a proposed amendment to the Constitution that guarantees equal rights for women. The measure emerged as top legislative priority after Democrats took both control of the houses of the Virginia General Assembly for the first time in 2 decades, leading to the election of the first female Speaker of the House of the state's House of Delegates. It received bipartisan support in both chambers. This historic vote allows recent ratifications by Nevada in 2017 and Illinois in 2018. After 4 decades of inactivity, the Constitution provides that amendments take effect when 3/4 of the states ratify them. That's right. Putting the current threshold at 38 states. Virginia was the 38th state to ratify the ERA since Congress proposed it in 1972, technically pushing the ERA to cross that threshold, and yet there are still hurdles in the ERA's path. The ratification deadline that Congress sets after it approved the amendment have lapsed, and 5 states have acted to rescind their prior approval. Now, these raise important questions, and now it is up to Congress, the courts, and the American people to resolve them. Oh, okay. Redress just means set right, relief, or remedy. It can be putting rights by wrong, compensation, yes. Right to redress refers to the right to a relief or remedy, yeah. The Equal Rights Amendment, which was first drafted in 1923 by 2 leaders of the women's suffrage movement, Alice Paul and Crystal Eastman, for women's rights advocates, the ERA was the next logical step following the successful campaign to win access to the ballot through the adoption of the 19th Amendment. They believed that enshrining the principle of gender equality in our founding charter would help overcome many of the obstacles that kept women as second-class citizens. While the text of the amendment has changed over years, the gist of it remains the same. The version approved by Congress in 1972 and sent to the states reads, "Equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. The Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article." Beginning in 1923, lawmakers introduced ERA in every session of Congress, but it's made little progress until the 70s. It didn't help that for the most of the 20th century, Congress was comprised mostly of entirely men. In nearly 5 decades span between 1922 and 1970, only 10 women served in the Senate, with no more than 2 serving at a time. The picture was only slightly better in the House. In 1970, a new class of women lawmakers, including Representatives Martha Griffiths and Shirley Chisholm, pressed to make the ERA a top legislative priority. They had to overcome the resistance of Representative Emanuel Seller, the powerful chairman of the House Judiciary, who had refused to hold a hearing on the ERA for over 30 years. Faced with increased pressure, Seller finally relented. In March of 1972, the amendment passed both chambers of Congress with bipartisan support, far exceeding 2/3 majority required by the Constitution. Congress promptly sent the proposed amendments to the states for ratification with a 7-year deadline. Jesus. So why did... Not to be... I mean, I guess, hindsight and all is convenient now, but, is there a rule where you have to have a defined time frame for this amendment to constitutions? Does it have to be defined by a certain timeline? And if so, I would have put that timeline to 100 years. Women in certain states can't open bank accounts without their husbands or guardians. I've heard about that. True. I guess we're a little bit better, just a bit, Why wasn't the ERA ratified by its original deadline within a year? 30 of the necessary 38 states acted to ratify the ERA, but the momentum slowed as conservative activists, allied with the emerging religious right, launched a campaign. It's always these fundamentalists, I tell you. To stop the amendment in its tracks, Phyllis Schafly, a conservative lawyer and activist from Illinois who led the Stop ERA campaign, argued that the measure would lead, to gender-neutral bathrooms. Okay. That's kind of weird where your mind goes. Same-sex marriage. Okay. And how does ratifying equality for women translate into same-sex marriage? This is like a red herring. This has nothing to do with anything. And women in military combat, among other things. What? That's some good memes. Conservatives really don't have like much imagination other than the same 5 like bigoted talking points. Jesus Christ. Truly, no fun in fundamentalism, folks. Truly. The opposition campaign was remarkably successful. Wonder why. Support for the ERA eroded, particularly among Republicans. Though the GOP was the first party to endorse the ERA back in the 1940s, GOP lawmakers cooled to the amendment, leading to a stalemate in the states. By 1977, only 35 states had ratified the ERA, though Congress voted to extend the ratification deadline by an additional 3 years. No new states signed on. Complicating matters further, lawmakers in 5 states, Nebraska, Tennessee, Idaho, Kentucky, and South Dakota, voted to rescind their earlier support. In 1982, following the expiration of the extended deadline, most activists and lawmakers accepted the ERA's defeat, but in 4 decades since Congress first proposed the ERA, courts and legislators have realized much of what the amendment was designed to accomplish. A significant portion of the credit goes to RBG, who is the founding director of the ACLU Women's Rights Project, found success in arguing for a jurisprudence of gender equality under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. And yet, despite these dramatic and important gains for women's rights, pervasive gender discrimination persists in the form of wage disparity, sexual harassment and violence, and unequal representation in the institutions of American democracy. In recent years, there has been a resurgence of women's activism, from the Women's March on Washington to the Me Too movement to the record number of women elected to Congress and state legislatures in 2018. Amid this renewed focus on the issues of gender equality, lawmakers and advocacy organizations like the ERA Coalition have put the amendment back on the nation's agenda. The renewed push to adopt the ERAs captured public attention in 2017 when Nevada became the first state to ratify the measures since 1977. A key ERA champion, State Senator Pat Spearman, explained this is the right thing to do, the right time to do it, so we just ought to do it. Okay. We can't even pass a law making women on the same status? Jesus. Why isn't Harris making this a thing? Because I don't think that she's actually interested in any of that, to be quite frank. Hold on, folks. Listen, the only thing we have room for is malarkey. Nothing but malarkey. Okay? Just say that Russia's invading our women. In 2018, the Illinois legislature followed suit. This is our generation's chance to correct a long-standing wrong, argued State Representative Steve Anderson, a Republican who helped shepherd the measure. With each new ratification, there has been increased GOP support for the ERA. Chai Bureaucrat coming in hot. Coming in hot with a tier 1 sub in a 19-month streak. 19 months. "19 months, folks. Wow. That is just unbelievably generous. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Chai Bureaucrat. True. Women were allowed bank accounts in the 1960s and 1974. Women could apply for credit cards without a husband slash his signature. In the UK, women couldn't open a bank account until 1975. In 1978, we'd finally declared that pregnancy couldn't be a reason to be fired. Yeah, that's interesting. Allowed. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate that. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, this is definitely a lot more involved. This is why education is so important, folks. Columbia University was the last Ivy League college to end blocking women in 1981. Holy yikes. This is not that long ago. That was actually not too far, without saying much, too far, before I was born. In 1981 is not really too far off from when I was born. Connecting it all back, this is why lawyers are bad for society. I mean, you kind of need them at this point. I guess it's just like, it's the kind of lawyer, right? It's the schooling and the mentality that these folks are put on, right, in law school, would probably be the go-to to adjust that, right? They didn't make classes co-ed until 83? Uh-oh. Yeah, by the time I entered the public school system, for sure, it was already co-ed by that time. What? If boys and girls look at each other, they get pregnant? I learned that from my private Christian school. True, that's exactly how it works. Undeniably, that's exactly how it works. That's the truth they don't teach you. Exactly. Bedroom eyes. You are no... Oh my goodness.
Please clap.
I vaguely remember co-ed being a big deal on news and TV. It was happening as I was going through elementary school. I see. So yeah, no, it happened like by that time. By that time it was already co-ed. So yeah. Oh no. I entered public grade school in 1951 and I thought it was just average at the time, but I see now that it was far away and advanced over today. Oh, I see what you're saying. But I see now it was far and away advanced over today. Wow. You mean back then it was more advanced, or you pregoed my ego? Yeah, I'm not sure what that means. Oh, that it wasn't as advanced since in the 40s or 30s? Well, I mean, yeah. Oh, wait, it's backwards. People could get good union jobs with a high school degree back then too, so I don't know. The level of education was totally different than today's society has changed so much then. Yes, some for the better and some for, worse. I would say, like, if we can just, if we can just go to the labor, the labor force, or I guess strength that we had back then, because we had a lot more, union power, that would be nice. Schools are definitely getting worse, but that's because people like Carnegie Foundation made our school system about producing workers and not... Because people like the Carnegie Foundation made our school system about producing workers and not citizens. Gotcha. Makes sense. Schools are about creating drones that corporations can use, not scholars that advance society. Yeah, well, I would mostly agree with that. Yeah, drones who vote for parties, while scholars who think deeper. Well, okay, so TLDR, Jennifer Waysworth, the Brennan Center Women's for Democracy Fellow, noted that the ERA would empower Congress to enforce gender equity through legislation and more generally, oh my god, conservatives lose their mind if they heard this. Jesus. To enforce gender equity through legislation and more generally the creation of social frameworks to formally acknowledge systemic biases that permeate and often limit women's daily experiences. It would create a consistency to address the patchwork ways gender and economic inequity are often addressed in our current law. Among the lingering legal and policy inequities the ARA would help rectify, she identified the emerging issue of menstrual equity as a legal and policy issue the ARA could further refine and bolster. Oh my goodness. like Jordan. Yes, Jordan Peterson, very, very well known, very known intellectual giant. Very well known intellectual giant. You see, Joe. These climate alarmists are just blowing over, just blowing up this not such a big deal because, you know, Joe, and you gotta trust me, Joe, when I tell you that they have no idea what they're talking about, and their proclivities lie in the fact that they have yet to clean up the room. Because as I told you before, Joe, climate is everything. And how could you account for everything? To get all the money, but suddenly they have a change of heart once they have all the money in control. Yeah, well, I mean, the point is, like, if you're, if you're a oligarch, there's only two ways to get there, right? Either you are born into it, or you have enough money, your parents have enough capital to propel you from the beginning to create said empire, and the only way that happens is off the backs and exploitation of workers. And to make those type of decisions, to actively exploitate, takes a certain kind of characteristic. And Jordan Peterson makes no sense. I've already seen right through his words, salad or trash. Yeah. And women, Joe, women, and I know you would agree with me, are a distraction to the full potential of men. Men who are under attack. Men who, again, have been emasculated because they haven't bought my book. You see, Joe, if they would have bought my book, 24 Rules, Part 1 and 2, they would have learned by now to clean up the room. That's it. That's it, Joe. Your impression is triggering me. Then I must be doing something good. 330 million Americans and 12 states with 86 million people are holding up the ERA. Jesus. How much percentage is that? How much percentage is that? 86. It's about 26%. There we go. Yep, it's about 26%. So it's the usual suspects of anywhere from 25 to 30% of the country. Isn't it funny how it always comes down to that roughly about that percentage. All right, we've got maybe a few minutes. The founding fathers did an amazing job crafting a system that can be sabotaged by a third of the population. Yeah, and like not only that, like the electoral system is like so fragile. The fact that we even, of course, you know, at the time, maybe, I don't even know where in their minds it made sense, but it must have at the time created a system that can be exploited because all it is based on norms and procedure. So fragile. And how easily broken it can be.
Senator, I don't.
Oh, no.
Yes, it
It would be. Yeah, that's right. That's the right answer. I thought that was the right answer with Judge Alito. When they made a big deal about some group he was in that had views that he didn't agree with and tried to call him basically a racist, and found out that Senator Kennedy, God rest his soul, who beat the crap out of the guy for being part of some supper club that was actually in some organization called the OWL that didn't admit women. So I guess the reason I'm bringing all this up is it gives me a chance to remind this committee in America there are two standards going on here.
Oh, I see. So this isn't for...
African-American conservative woman, you're fair game to have your life turned upside down, to be filibustered, no matter how qualified you are.
Okay, so political grandstanding. This is a soapbox.
Conservative, all of a sudden you're a effing nut.
Yes.
And we're tired of it.
Oh,
it's
no.
not going to happen to you.
Oh, no.
But it just appalls me that we can have such a system in America. That if a conservative woman wants to stand out and say, I love my family just as much as you love yours, and my faith means just as much to me as it does you.
Wait, what? Hold on, buddy. Faith has no room in politics, my friend.
Type situation you're in, being in a group doesn't agree with everything they do or what people may say at a meeting he didn't go to, all of a sudden they own it. You know, this stuff needs to stop. Our people deserve better respect, and I hope when this is over, people will say you were at least well treated, even if we don't agree with you.
In your world, your party would have, in your ideal world, Mr. Graham, people like her wouldn't have any rights to bodily autonomy. So, yeah. Is this a woke stream? Why are you trying to smear Lindsey Graham? True, I'm sorry. Lindsey Graham is our progressive senator from South Carolina.
core constitutional value.
You'll get no complaint from me. That was my job in the Air Force. I was a Area Defense Counsel. I represented anybody that came in the door, whether I liked them or not. I did my best. Is that what you did?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, so the American people deserve a system where everybody's represented, where you like them or not, and anybody takes up that cause, no problem with me. You're just doing your job, and I think you make our country stronger. But there's the other side of the story that never gets mentioned when I talk about Gitmo. The American people deserve a system that can keep terrorists off the battlefield. They deserve a system that understands the difference between being at war and a crime. Do you consider 9/11, you said, a terrible, tragic event? Would you consider it an act of war?
Yes, Senator.
Okay, I would too. I think it was an act of war by Al-Qaeda and associated groups against the people of the United States. So as you
what is the point?
rightfully are proud of your service as a public defender, and you represented Gitmo detainees, which is part of our system, I want you to understand, and the nation to understand, what's been happening.
What is he trying to get at?
What's the recidivism rate at Gitmo?
Senator,
What?
I'm not aware.
It's 31%. How does that
And?
strike you? Is that high, low, about right?
I don't know how it strikes me overall.
You know how it
like-
strikes me? It strikes me as terrible.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Okay, good. We found common ground. Of the 229 detainees released from Gitmo, of 729 released, 229 have gone back to the fight. Here's some of the notables. Former Gitmo detainee Zakir was named the interim defense minister of Afghanistan. I don't know exactly what his job is today, but during the transition, they made him the defense minister and he was in Gitmo. Of the 5 men we released from Gitmo as part of the prisoner swap for Sergeant Burkdale, here's where they're at. Mohammed Fazal was appointed Deputy Minister of Defense. Noor was appointed Acting Minister of Borders and Tribal Affairs. Waziki was appointed as Acting Intelligence Director.
Trying to get a gotcha with idiotic lines of questioning. Yeah, I'm trying to like not understand what the relevance is here. That she's like, is she going to be in charge as a Supreme Court like justice, determining like cases of individual crimes? I'm not understanding what the point is here. Also, Irk brings up a good point. Being detained in Guantanamo Bay is not the same as being convicted of a effing crime, sir. Right. Because at Gitmo, you can be detained indefinitely, right? Like, you don't... It's like... Human rights don't exist there.
Obviously, Senator, any repeated criminal behavior or repeated attacks, acts of war, bother me as an American.
Well, it bothers me. While I will not hold it against you, nor should I, the fact that you represent Gitmo detainees, I think it's time to look at this system new, folks. When 31% of the people are going back to fight to kill Americans and now running the Taliban government, we have gone wrong somewhere.
So, okay. What is the point? Is she like being nominated for foreign policy? I'm not understanding.
In effect, Congress has authorized the use of force against people in this way.
But do you personally believe that Al-Qaeda, ISIS-type groups are still at war with us?
I mean...
Yes, I mean, I think we...
So we're...
Why is she even entertaining this? What?
I believe that's documented, yes.
Okay. Now, what's the process to determine whether one's an enemy combatant under our law?
Yeah, that's how just war works. True.
Well, I believe that the executive branch makes an assessment of whether or not someone is taking up arms against the United States somewhere in the world related to all of this.
Okay, so it's an executive branch function to determine whether or not this person qualifies as an enemy combatant.
Well, I believe that they make a
Under current law.
Under current law, I believe that determination is made by the executive branch and the person is detained. And then the question becomes whether they are able to bring some sort of legal challenge to that
They have a
determination.
habeas right.
Yes.
Okay, so the law is that the executive branch determines if you're an enemy combatant, and under our law, you can appeal that decision to a federal court through habeas. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Is it your view that we can hold enemy combatants as long as they're a threat to the United States?
I believe that's what the Supreme Court has determined.
Okay. Did you argue that that should not be the case before in an amicus brief?
Amicus brief.
I'm trying to think. I had 2 amicus briefs that I worked on, or 3 technically, but 2 different cases.
Well, we'll have another visit tomorrow. So
Yes.
Go back and check.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that in your brief, you argued that the executive branch should not have the ability to hold an enemy combatant indefinitely. You need to try him, through
You can
some
be picked up in
process,
Afghanistan
or
for
release
being
them.
around a male
Yes,
fighting
Senator,
age
as
and
you
end up in
were,
Gitmo? True.
talking, my clients, the Cato Institute, the Rutherford Institute, and the Constitution Project, made that argument and asked me to draft their brief.
Yes. Well, do you agree with that argument?
Senator, my responsibility was to make my clients' arguments, and as a nominee to the Supreme Court, that's the kind of issue. The Supreme Court did not address that issue. They, in fact, the case became moot.
Did you organize an effort to get 20 judges to file a brief with the Supreme Court on this issue?
Not on that issue, no,
On
Senator.
another issue?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. Did you actively go out and recruit 20 judges to help you file a brief on another issue?
So is
regarding
the gotcha that she's like a terrorist sympathizer?
What do you mean?
I don't get it.
What I mean is that I was at Morrison and Forster, which was my law firm, in the Supreme Court and appellate group. One of the partners at Morrison and Forster was a former federal judge who wanted to make this argument and who said, I have former federal judges who are friends of mine who would like to join with me to make this argument. So I worked with her, the partner at my firm who was a former federal judge, to make.
So it was her idea to get former judges to write this,
Yes.
not yours?
Yes.
And you just helped in the implementation of that idea?
So, Senator, as a member of the Supreme Court and appellate group in a law firm, that is the practice.
Right. Now I'm asking.
Amicus practice, yes.
It wasn't your idea, it was somebody else.
Yes.
Okay. So now, there are people still held at Gitmo today. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. What system is in place regarding their future?
What?
I am not aware of the system right now. I'm not sure exactly what you mean.
Let me tell you what it is.
Yes.
There's a periodic review process made up of an interagency where they go through the files of these folks and they determine whether or not they still present a threat to the United States or the world at large. And I think it's 6 months, maybe a year.
But who makes that
goes
determination, and what are the
at least on an
parameters to
annual
that?
basis. And if there's a determination that this person still represents a threat to the United States, they're continued to be confined. That's the way the system works.
So indefinitely, gotcha.
Are you okay with that?
Oh my God.
As a policy matter, Senator, I'm not speaking to my views. That's
Jesus
my
Christ.
understanding is that the periodic review system is an executive branch.
Yeah, what is the
determination
relevance of this? Is this
whether
to
or
get a
not they're
gotcha?
going to continue to hold people that they.
Does that make sense to you as a way to deal with these detainees?
Senator, I'm not in a position to speak to the policy or the discretion of the executive branch regarding how they're going to handle detainees.
The reason I mention it is because in one of the briefs, you argued that the executive branch doesn't have that option. That if you had had your way, the executive branch could not do periodic reviews about the danger the detainee presents to the United States. They would have to make a decision of trying them or releasing them.
Wait.
Is that not accurate?
Wait.
Respectfully, Senator, it was not my argument. I was filing an amicus brief on behalf of clients, including the Rutherford Institute, the Cato Institute, and the Constitution Project, who...
When you sign on to a brief, does it not become your argument?
It does not, Senator. If you are an attorney and you are representing a client...
Wasn't Lindsey Graham an attorney?
When you were in private practice. I mean, you sign on to this brief making this argument, but you say it's not your position. I mean, why would you do that if it's not your position? Why would you take a client that has a position like that? Now, this is voluntary. Nobody's making you do this.
Oh, Senator, I would refer you to the same sorts of statements that Chief Justice Roberts made when he came before the committee, which is that lawyers represent clients.
I get that. I'm not holding the client's views against you. The people you're representing at Gitmo, they deserve representation. But this is a amicus brief where you and other people try to persuade the court to change policy. The policy I described is a periodic review. If the court had taken the position argued in the brief that you signed upon, we'd have to release these people or try them, and some of them, the evidence we can't disclose because it's classified. You're putting America in an untenable position.
I'm sorry. Hold on. This is actually insane. This is actually insane. So he's arguing, he's basically saying, man, damn, if we actually followed the logic that you supposedly signed on to in this amicus brief, then we would have to actually have this thing called due process. And we just can't have that. Just can't have that. What? What? Due process? I'm from the University School of Law. Okay, so he did go to law school, so he should know this.
This cause, and you say somebody hired you, but did you feel okay in adopting that cause? I mean, when you signed on to the brief, were you not advocating that position to the court?
Senator, as a judge now, in order to determine the lawfulness or unlawfulness of any particular issue, I need to receive briefs and information, making positions on all sides. And
I got what a judge is all about. Listen, I'm not asking you to decide the case in front of me right here. I'm asking me to explain a position you took as a lawyer regarding the law of war, and I am beyond confused. I know what you said in your brief. Whether I agree with it or not, it's not the point. I just want you to understand that it's important for all of us to know where you were coming from. If that brief had been accepted by the court, it would be impossible for us to fight this war. Because there's some people going to die in jail in Gitmo and never go to trial for a lot of good reasons, because the evidence against them is so sensitive we can't disclose it to the public.
What?
That we're not charging them with a crime. What we're doing is saying that you engaged in hostile activities against the United States, that you are an enemy combatant under our law, and you will never be released as long as you're a danger until the war is over or you're no longer a danger. That's the difference between fighting a crime and a war.
But
did you ever accuse in one of your habeas petitions the government of acting as war criminals for holding the detainees? That the holding of the detainees by our government, that we were acting as war criminals.
Yes.
Senator, I don't remember that accusation, but I will say that...
Do you believe that's true? That America was acting as war criminals in holding these detainees?
Senator, the Supreme Court held that the executive branch has the authority to detain people who are designated as enemy combatants for the duration of the hostilities.
I don't know why she needs to engage in this. This is not part of her job.
Was making allegations to preserve issues on behalf of my clients. A habeas petition is like a complaint that lawyers make allegations.
You know, I've been a lawyer too, but I don't think it's necessary to call the government a war criminal in pursuing charges against a terrorist. I just think that's too far. I don't know why he chose those words. That's just too far. But we are where we are. So let's talk about...
Yeah, this is just so... unnecessary. Unbelievable. All right, folks, we got to get moving. We've got to get moving. Yeah, it's pretty unhinged. Like, the idea that this is the line of questioning for a Supreme Court justice has nothing to do with anything. I don't know. It just makes no sense. It just makes no sense whatsoever. But, you know. The progressive senator from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. Mod Duty calls. Y'all have a good day. You have a good day. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate that. Folks, we're heading into the Ipcc section. Before we get into this, we need a quick chill session. Folks, this month's sponsor is, that's right, HelloFresh. If you haven't already seen the little chatbot's message, please consider checking out HelloFresh. Use the link in that chat box or exclamation HelloFresh. Use code POG, SE2534 to get up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts across the 6 HelloFresh boxes, plus free shipping on your first box. Make sure you click on that link. Use the code. It does help us out. I personally have used HelloFresh. HelloFresh makes, well, pescatarian and veggie options every week as well. Plus, after you're done, you can also just simply keep the recipes. That's what we did. We used it during the pandemic for quite a while, and we had no issues using HelloFresh. This was brought to us, thankfully, through Stream Elements, so I appreciate them sponsoring this channel for this month. So make sure that you stay on track with simple recipes, fresh, pre-portioned ingredients that help limit meal prep time and cut back on trips to the grocery store. HelloFresh has more 5-star reviews than any other meal kit. Look at that. So you know you'll get something delicious. Again, pescatarian and veggie options every week. So consider helping this channel by supporting our sponsor, HelloFresh. Thank you to Stream Elements for making that happen. Exclamation mark, HelloFresh. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. and join the person who joined HelloFresh yesterday. All right, folks, we're moving on with the Working Group 2 technical summary of the Ipcc report. We'll see how far we can get. If you guys haven't looked at the technical summary, I will put the link in the description here. Future global burdens of climate-sensitive disease and conditions will depend on emission and adaptation pathways and efficacy of public health systems. Interventions in sanitation, very high confidence projections under mid-range emission scenarios show an additional 250,000 deaths per year by 2050, compared to 1961 to 1990 due to malaria, heat, childhood, undernutrition, and diarrhea. High confidence. Overall, more than half of the sex's mortality is projected for Africa. Mortality and morbidity will continue to escalate as exposure becomes more frequent and intense, putting additional strain on health and economic systems. High confidence. Reducing capacity to respond, particularly in resource-poor regions, vulnerable groups including young children, less than 5 years old, elderly, greater than 65 years old, pregnant women, indigenous people, and those with pre-existing diseases, physical laborers, and those in low socioeconomic conditions. High confidence. Climate change is expected to have adverse effects on well-being and further threaten mental health. Very high confidence. Children and adolescents, particularly girls, as well as people with existing mental and physical and medical challenges, are particularly at risk. High confidence. I hope this illustrates the vast impacts that climate change does have. I mean, the dominoes fall deep, folks. The dominoes fall deep. Mental health impacts are expected to arise from exposure to extreme weather events, displacement, migration, famine, malnutrition, degradation or destruction of health and social care systems, and climate-related economic and social losses, and anxiety and distress associated with worry about climate change. Very high confidence. You know, conservatives made a lot of fun about the idea of anxiety, especially anxiety coming to grips with the realities of climate change, and well, it turns out it's very, very, very real. Increased heat-related mortality and morbidity are projected globally. Very high confidence. Globally, temperatures-related mortality is projected to increase under RCP 4.5 to 8.5, even with adaptation. Very high confidence. Tens of thousands additional deaths are projected under moderate and high global warming scenarios, particularly North, West, and Central Africa, with up to year-round exceedance of deadly heat thresholds by 2100. High agreement, robust evidence. In Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane, urban heat-related excess deaths are projected to increase about 300 a year. Low emission pathway to 600 a year. High emission pathway during 2031 to 2080 relative to 142 year during 1971 to 2020. High confidence. 2031, that's not too far, folks. In Europe, not too far, and even under the low emission, hundreds of excess deaths just by heat related. This is just heat related. In Europe, the number of people at high risk of mortality will triple at 3 degrees Celsius compared to 1.5. In particular, in Central and Southern Europe and urban areas, high confidence. Climate impacts on food systems are projected to increase under nutrition and diet-related mortality and risk globally, high confidence. Reduced marine and freshwater fisheries catch potential is projected to increase malnutrition in East, West, and Central Africa, medium to high confidence, and in subsistence-dependent communities across North America, high confidence. By 2050, disability-adjusted life years due to undernutrition and micronutrient deficiencies are projected to increase by 10% under RCP 8.5, medium evidence, high agreement. These projected changes will increase diet-related risk factors and related non-communicable diseases globally and increase undernutrition, stunting, and related childhood mortality, particularly in Africa and Asia. High confidence. Near-term projections, 2030, of undernutrition are the highest for children. I think this is a typo. Confidence, which can have lifelong adverse consequences for physiological and neurological development as well as for earnings capacity. Climate change is projected to put 8 million under SSP 1 to 80 million under SSP 3 at risk for hunger in the mid-century, concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Central America. High confidence, these climate change impacts on nutrition could undermine progress towards eradication of child nutrition. High confidence. Vector-borne disease transmission is projected to expand to higher latitudes and altitudes, and the duration of seasonal transmission risk is projected to increase. High confidence, with the greatest risk under high-emission scenarios, of course. Dengue fever ranges will increase in North America, Asia, Europe, and Sub-Saharan Africa under RCP 6 and RCP 8, potentially putting another 2.25 billion, with a B, people at risk. High confidence. Higher incidence rates of Lyme disease are projected for the Northern Hemisphere. High confidence. Climate change is projected to increase malaria geographic distribution in endemic areas of Sub-Saharan and Southern Africa, Asia, and South America. High confidence, exposing tens of millions of more people to malaria, predominantly in East and South Africa, and up to hundreds of millions more exposed under RCP 8.5. High confidence. Yeah, so diseases will be more common and will be more transmissible and more prominent. That's the TLDR of that. Higher temperatures and heavy rainfall events are projected to increase rates of waterborne and foodborne diseases in many regions. High confidence at 2.1 degrees Celsius. Thousands to tens of thousands of additional cases of diarrheal disease are projected mainly in Central and East Africa. Medium confidence, morbidity from cholera will increase in Central and East Africa. Medium confidence, and increased in schistosomiasis risk is projected for Eastern Africa. I have no idea what that is. Oh, I see. Also known as bilharzia, is a disease caused by a parasitic worm, although worms that cause schistosomiasis are not found in the United States. People are affected worldwide. So it's a parasitic disease. Is projected for Eastern Africa. High confidence in Asia and Africa. 1 degrees warming Celsius can cause a 7% increase in diarrhea, 8% increase in E. coli, and 3% to 11% increase in deaths. Medium confidence. Yeah, this is again just the waterborne and foodborne diseases. Plus, you add the hundreds of deaths related to heat. Plus, you add the deaths that are related directly to natural disasters, like, I don't know, floods or hurricanes or, wildfires, things like that. And things start to look pretty grim. Warming increases the risk of foodborne disease outbreaks, including salmonella and Campylobacter infections. What the heck is this? What? Why would I ask USPS to track this? Okay. It's a genus of gram-negative bacteria. Okay, so it's a bacteria. Some Campylobacter species can infect humans, sometimes causing Campylobacteriosis, which is a diarrheal disease in humans. Gotcha. warming supports growth and geographical expansion of toxigenic fungi in crops. Yikes. Medium confidence and potentially toxic marine and freshwater algae. Medium confidence food safety risk in fisheries and aquaculture are projected through harmful algal blooms. High confidence pathogens, example Vibrio. High confidence in human exposure to elevated bioaccumulation of persistent organic pollutants and mercury. Medium confidence. We already see that the majority of our fish has some levels of mercury as it is. The burden of several non-communicable diseases projected to increase under climate change. High confidence cardiovascular disease mortality could increase by 18.4 to 47.8 and 69% in the 2020s, 2050s, and 2080s respectively. 2050s is pretty much within our time frame, so yikes. Under RCP 4.5 and 16%, 73.8, 16.6, 73.8, 134% under RCP 8.5 compared to the 1980s. High confidence future risk of respiratory diseases associated with aeroallergens and ozone exposure are expected to increase. And again, this is to compound that on top of all the heat deaths, on top of all the foodborne and waterborne diseases, on top of the direct deaths related to, climate catastrophes. Migration patterns due to climate change are difficult to project as they depend on patterns of population growth, adaptive capacity of exposed populations, and socioeconomic development and migration policies. High confidence. In many regions, the frequency and/or severity of floods, extreme storms, and droughts is projected to increase in the coming decades, especially under high-emission scenarios, raising future risk of displacement in most exposed areas. High confidence. Under all global warming levels, some regions that are presently densely populated will become unsafe or uninhabitable, with movement from these regions occurring autonomously or through planned relocation. High confidence. Future climate-related migration is expected to vary by region over time according to future climatic drivers, patterns of population growth, adaptive capacity of exposed populations, and international development and migration policies. High confidence. Future migration and displacement patterns in a changing climate will depend not only on the physical impacts of climate change, but also on the future policies and planning at all scales of governance. High confidence. Oh Lord. Projecting the number of people migrating due to slow onset events is difficult due to the multi-causal nature of migration and the dominant role that socioeconomic factors have in determining migration response. High confidence. Right, but wouldn't climate change then affect said socioeconomic situation, yeah? I mean, if your house is like burned down or you can't grow crops as a farmer, your socioeconomic situation changes, right? Increased frequency of extreme heat events and long-term increase in average temperatures pose future risk to the habitability of settlements in low latitudes. This, combined with the urban heat island effect, may in the long term affect migration patterns in exposed areas, especially under high emission scenarios, but more evidence is needed. High emission / low development scenarios raise the potential for both increased rates of migration and displacement and larger involuntary immobile populations that are highly exposed to climatic risk but lack the means of moving to other locations. Medium confidence. Okay. Okay, so we are at page 35. We are making excellent progress. I think we're 35 out of 96, so just over a third. Yeah, just over a third, getting close to half. Hopefully we can make a lot of progress tomorrow and Thursday. Tomorrow, folks, there will be an announcement on the Discord, so please make sure you stay tuned to that. Tomorrow's stream is going to have to be swapped to the nighttime after 8 p.m. So instead of 9 a.m., it'll be 8 p.m. So it'll just be a flipperoo. So please make sure you pay attention to the announcements on Discord. I forgot to say that yesterday. But please take a note of that. And of course, join the Discord for any updates regarding that. So it's going to be after 8 p.m. instead of the usual 9 a.m. Eastern time. So you get the evening stream. But it's okay. We'll have a cool night sesh. Okay, it's not all the time, but sometimes it works out just fine. So that being said, just keep up with the channel on the Discord. Join. And make sure you hit the join the YouTubes. Join us on the YouTubes and hit the subscribe button there. As always, I appreciate all of you guys' support. Thank you so much for the sub, Chai Bureaucrat. Thank you for all the follows. I appreciate that. Dak Apollyon with a sub yesterday. I appreciate that. Folks, also consider supporting our sponsor, HelloFresh! !HelloFresh. Check out the links in the channel thingy. And also just in chat as well. It really does help us out, and you'll be supporting the channel, so I appreciate that, of course. Glad to wake and bake with your great news. I appreciate that, Stony Progressive. It really does mean a lot. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Have a good one. You have a good one. As always, folks, please stay safe. Yes, ! HelloFresh. Like I said, you get to even get some free meals. Get to try it out. If you don't like it, or if you do like it, and you don't want to continue the subscription, you do like the recipes, just keep them. That's what we did. Alright, folks, as always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Alright, folks. Hang tight. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya!